Hi, I'm Diana Hoelscher with Influence for Good podcast. I hope you'll join me so that together we can be an influence for good. So today is so much fun. I have a guest that I'm just dying for you guys to meet. This is Holly Hasler. Holly is my sister-in-law, which is so fun. And she has got this reputation and this resume that is so fun, especially as we talk so much about our faith journeys on Influence for Good. She has got such an incredible story that I can't wait for you to get to know her. So, Holly, what has been your life passion in your career?
My life passion has really been through tennis. And I've just had so many experiences as a young tennis player, and then through my teenage years, and in college, and then heading out on the professional tour, and now coaching tennis. So I feel like that really has been my passion. Um, my whole life has really been centered around the sport of tennis.
It
So
really has. She's so exceptional at it, and I am so terrible at tennis. We have all these hilarious stories. Where, how many times have you explained the rules of tennis to me, and then you're still like, seriously, Diana? Seriously, you still don't get it? And one time I went to see her shortly after she married my brother. She was in a big tournament, and I went to go watch. Do you remember this? And I didn't know. It was my first time ever going to a tennis match. And, I'm such a cheerleader. My personality saw it go. And she just, I showed up late, which is indicative of our family, right? Not you, my family. And I showed up late, and she had just cranked this hit over, like just line drove in it, and just the other person just dove for it and completely missed it. And I just, wow! I just screamed and I went to cheer like that was an animal move. And she was on the court and just turned and went, shh. And I was like, do you remember?
Yeah, the tennis etiquette, you definitely have to know tennis etiquette. And Diana, you did not know tennis etiquette.
I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh, that was a learning moment right there. And it's so quiet that sometimes, and she's phenomenal. She has two sons that are exceptional, also exceptional players. So I've gone to lots of games, and then I'm like, is it over? Because they'll just pick up their stuff and walk right off, and I'm like, is it a break? Is it over? I'm ashamed.
It's true. If you don't know tennis, some of the rules and the scoring can be pretty confusing.
No,
for
it's
someone
terrible.
that has
I'm
never
so
been to or
sorry.
seen a tennis match before.
But I'm getting a little bit better over the years, but it's been a shameful thing. And so people are always like, oh, your sister-in-law is Holly Hasler. And I'm like, I know, she's the stuff. So let's just tell them some fun things. Let's hit a couple of cool high points. What would be when you were on the pro tour, what would be some of your favorite, fun brags?
I mean, I would say playing in the main draw of the Grand Slams is for sure like a dream come true.
So cool.
I think most people don't realize the road to get to those Grand Slams is pretty tough, and you have to go to some pretty shady, crazy places all around the world to kind of build the points for the ranking to get into the main draw of those bigger events. But the main draw of a Grand Slam it's kind of like, it's just everything you've ever dreamed of as a professional tennis player is being in that limelight. And I just everything from the locker rooms to the player parties to the player gifts to the way that the players are treated, the escorting of security to the matches. And it's just really a professional environment, which you don't see in the day-to-day small pro tournaments that you're having to go grind at to get to that, just to that bigger scene. And so those tournaments are amazing. I would definitely say playing World Team Tennis was a really fun atmosphere where every league that you play on has kind of a star player on your team. And so during that, I just got to play against and play with some of the best tennis players in the whole world.
Name drop. Give us some name drops.
I got to play doubles with Martina Navratilova. I got to play mixed doubles with Andy Roddick. Serena Williams was on my team with the Delaware Smash. And so, just being on the court with players of that,
that
caliber,
caliber.
is just kind of like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I thought, you know, I'm a great tennis player, but they are next level.
Wow.
And so doing that was just a really fun, great experience. When I played in the U.S. Open, I was able to play on the Arthur Ashe Stadium, the night match on center court against Anna Kournikova, which was probably one of the biggest matches of my tennis career. And so, yeah, lots of like super fun opportunities.
Too.
Yeah, I played at Wimbledon, and I played at the French Open and the Australian. And well, when I was younger, I got to be on the U.S. national team, which was an incredible experience, just getting to travel all over the world as a 16-year-old. You know, I mean, most kids only dream of sometimes going on an airplane.
Yeah.
And here I am,
all over the world,
traveling everywhere. You know, went through like 3 passports before I turned 20.
No way.
Just traveling to different tournaments all over the world. So lots of amazing experiences.
Oh, and in this, okay, so something that I know about you is that you're an avid, devout Christian, and you're actually a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That's correct.
And also, you are also a BYU women's head coach for BYU women's tennis, right?
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
So for the backstory on this, I mean, usually kids, when you hear about child fame or child success at that level, you then hear a torrid story of like the horrible things that they went through and were preyed upon, and drugs and alcohol and the fame and the, you know, how did you maintain your faith? Especially, so during high school, at the level that you were playing, you lived away from home. Will you give a little background on that?
Yeah. So my family moved around a lot. I was an Army brat. So my parents had 7 kids, and each of them were born in different states. So that was crazy. But kind of when I started getting really serious about tennis, my family lived in New Jersey, and the tennis just wasn't strong enough there for me to get the amount of practice hours that I needed, to find the coaches and hitting partners that I needed. And at that time, I decided to explore some opportunities down in Florida at some of the tennis academies. And I went down and tried out the Nick Balteri Tennis Academy. I was only in 6th grade at that time, and just went for a month and stayed with some of my parents' friends. And I loved it. I loved just getting to play tennis every day, and just in warm weather, and just feeling like I was just improving and getting better and better and better. And I just felt like, you know, my dream at that time was to be a professional tennis player.
Yeah.
And the only way I was going to be able to do that was if I kind of made that jump and made that commitment to live away from home. And, you know, I would go home one weekend a month, and my parents would come out one weekend a month. And outside of that, meet me at tournaments and things. And so, but it's crazy back then. I mean, we didn't even have cell phones.
Yeah.
I was writing letters back and forth to my siblings and my parents, and talking on the portable
Long
phone
distance.
at the front desk of the tennis club, you know, when I needed to reach out. So it was definitely, times have changed for sure.
Well, with that though, I mean, there had to have been moments that you made that to make that just kind of a big decision. Did you find yourself praying about that? Did you find yourself just being able to trust in the environment because it was your parents knew people, or how'd you make that?
Yes. So, you know, I had a lot of conversations with my dad, and he always was very clear on, we want to support you and we want to do this for you. Sorry. However, we have to remember what is most important in your life and the order of priority. And the gospel of Jesus Christ was always first on the list.
Yeah.
And it was through a lot of prayer that I had to kind of lean towards that decision and feel like I can do this. But the most important thing is that I stay close to my Heavenly Father in Jesus Christ, and that I am a good example around all these other tennis players with different things that, you know, they're exploring and trying to do. I mean, everyone there is living away from home and not with parents.
Yeah.
And, you know, even just through music that I listen to and words that come out of my mouth and just even body language through on the tennis court and the way that I am representing myself and my family and the example that I'm trying to follow after, which is my Savior Jesus Christ, you know? So it was a huge decision for me. And I promised my parents that I would go to church every single Sunday. And no matter where I was, and
How would you get
I
there if you
lived by
weren't
that
driving?
commitment. I mean, we had youth groups through our church,
Uh-huh.
and there were youth leaders that were just amazing. And knowing that I was living there alone and just with families or other tennis players and their parents, they just were amazing. They kind of took me under their wing and would invite me to
Whoa.
dinner and invite me to youth activities so that I kind of had something outside of just the tennis.
Yeah.
And it was actually super great because a lot of the kids there only had tennis.
Uh-huh.
And I saw many of my peers that it just kind of led to burnout,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And it was just nice that I had something else on the side that was really important to me
Yeah.
that I could go and do for fun just to kind of take my mind off of the tennis. And sometimes it would just be like, we're going to get together with a big group of kids and play games or
Yes.
go play a soccer game or run to the beach for a little bit or, you know, and so
you had that sense of community.
exactly.
You hear me pounding on this over and over on this podcast. One of the incredible gifts of finding a church community and connecting, aside from having that connection for personally with God, you connect to a community and you just don't spend all this isolation. I mean, that's huge.
That's exactly how it was. I was able to attend seminary and they provided me with
seminary is
rides
your
and
early morning Bible study.
or early morning Bible study
Yeah.
that we had through our church. And, you know, I couldn't go every single day, but the members of the community were just like, it was just like open arms, like any ways that we can help
but
you.
You're saying
And
that really easy. Like they were all doing it, but you would have had to have called and set up a ride every time you did that. That's a lot of extra effort when you're a kid and no one's there watching.
it's exactly right. And but you know, I had made this commitment to my Heavenly Father that this was going to remain the most important thing. And my family and the gospel of Jesus Christ were at the top of that list. Tennis was third in line out of my priorities. And so, and honestly, I just felt like being able to also focus on my faith, I felt like I had better results on the tennis court. And I was able to I just think there are things in my faith that helped me with problem solving and that helped me to stay close to my family even while I was there. I saw a lot of these kids that really fell away from their parents and their family members when they were down there. But because that was so central in my faith, like I made sure that I stayed connected with my family, even though I was there, so that when we did get together, it was like we'd never left each other, you know?
You know, this is such an important thing. I was just recently sitting with a friend and we were having a gospel conversation and she is a devout Catholic and wonderful. And something that she said she's always watched and admired is the family unit, the way it functions in my faith choice, which is Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. She said, I've always kind of envied a little bit the family connection that I see so often. And I think oftentimes when we have close friends and family members that are of other faiths, sometimes we watch and we can see fruits of their faith and fruits of their testimony, but can't figure out exactly how it came to be. I think this is a really great example of a maybe even a familiar teaching that we see in this faith community often, that God is first, family is second, and then whatever our third priority is. And to literally keep re-saying that in our own minds so that we continue to line our priorities up that way. And you found yourself having to do that literally every day.
Yeah.
But without parental supervision.
You know, looking back on it, it does, like now my own kids, I'm like, would I ever send them off to a tennis academy?
Yeah.
Because they are at the level where Utah is a hard place to to be really good at tennis because of the weather and the climate and the lack of other players and coaches. And it's just not a big tennis area. And when I think about, would I do this with my own kids?
Yeah, what do you
It's
think?
absolutely no. I would
No.
not.
But you
I'm
had
like,
such a great
wow. I'm like, I
experience.
don't even know. Like, I feel like it was just the examples of my parents
Yeah.
and through just consistent scripture study and prayer and keeping that relationship with my Savior Jesus Christ and my Father in heaven, and just knowing like just who I was and what I stood for and why I was there
Well,
was really important.
can I just point out, like, the inspiration of parents is profound. And like you said, in the circumstance of right now, with the world what it is today, that's a hard pass for you. But at that time, with you and your personality, that your parents listened to that inspiration and they felt like it was something that you could do successfully. And the spirit sounds like it validated it, or else you wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it really,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, it's a huge level of trust.
yes.
It's a huge level of trust. And I do trust my kids, and they are good kids.
They are great kids.
But it's nerve-wracking to think about just the types of peer pressures that they could be susceptible to,
Well, it was before social
and
media. It was
exactly.
The world is a different place.
It is
in
definitely
just one generation.
It is definitely a different place.
But I have reflected on you doing this in your adolescence so many times and been like, man, that girl's a brick house. Like, that's so crazy, with knowing how much pressure adolescence brings when you have parents watching you when you walk in the door. I was like, ooh, you could have been sneaky and gotten away with a lot.
It is true. It is true.
Okay, but in that, you probably had people think it was interesting to watch you in that process. Did you have a lot of questions? Like, what about when you're traveling and you're all over the world and you're trying to maintain these standards? I mean, you had to have had a lot of, what you doing?
Yeah, I definitely, for sure, lots of questions and lots of teasing and being made fun of too, and I just kind of learned to stand my ground because I knew that my path for me was the right path and the path that I needed.
And that sounds like it came through a lot of answers to prayers. Like,
it really did. It really did. There was one experience, and this was a crazy trip that I took down to South Australia.
okay.
And on the flight on the way there, my coach of my US team happened to be Australian.
Uh-huh.
And he was making fun of me on the flight,
Mm.
saying, "We know what you're going to do. The second you arrive, you are going to have your eyes looking out to try to find the church, your church, for you to attend." And I
Yeah.
said, "You are exactly right, because I know that I will find it wherever I go, and I will go." And he said, "I'm from Australia. I'm Australian, and we are going to Mount Gambier, Nuriyupta, and Port Pirie. They are the smallest towns in southern Australia, and I can promise you this, you will not be finding a church of your faith in these small towns." And I'm like, "You want to make a bet? All right, let's make a bet." So we shook on it, and wouldn't you know, we landed at the airport. We drove 6 hours down to the first town, and we were on the main street just heading into the town, and they had these little blue signs along the road for the city building and the courthouse, and the next blue sign with an arrow on it was LDS Chapel. And I was like, "You turn around right now and follow that sign. We are going there, and I am going to show you that." And wouldn't you know, we pulled up to just a small LDS church building, and it was so funny. He gave me the nickname on that trip. I was the Stormin' Mormon. And from that point on, everyone on our US team, I was stormin'. Even now on my birthday, I'll get a text and it'll say, "Hey, Stormin', how's it going?" And so it was super funny, but I didn't mind at all.
No.
And that trip especially was a really unique one. I was on a super good run of all 3 tournaments where I was just playing the tennis of my life.
Oh.
And I won the first tournament, and then we got to the next town and I won the second tournament. And at the third tournament, it was really interesting because very rarely can I ever attend church twice at the same tournament.
Sure.
But it just so happened that this one I was able to attend the first day of the tournament, and then I was in the finals, so the last day of the tournament. And we were in Nuriyupta of South Australia. And the thing that was so cool about this experience that has just stuck with me forever is I attended that first Sunday, and you're the visitor in this small town.
Yeah.
And so everybody wants to
Say
meet you. The
hello
whole
and-
community, wants to get to know you, and they know I'm American and tell us why you're here. And,
Yes.
and this tournament, although a small pro tournament, it was huge for this town.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a professional event bringing in
Yeah.
players from all over the world. And so for them, it was kind of like the Australian Open of their little town,
Oh,
even though it
cute.
was just a small tournament. And so when I told them that I was competing in this tournament, they were like, wow, that's amazing. And they all wanted to have me over for dinner during the week and come to watch and support. And it was just amazing. And the members of that faith, they just were this great community. And all week long, they were
came.
inviting me over, and they came out. And on that second Sunday, I was playing in the finals, and we have in our faith what we call once a month, we have what's called a fast and testimony meeting where anybody can give up and just bear their testimony and talk about neat experiences that they've had where they've their faith has been tested or they've felt the Spirit.
Yeah.
And
they're fasting for a 24-hour period.
Yep,
Usually
fasting.
you eat dinner on Saturday night, eat dinner again on Sunday, and then the meals that you skip, the money that you would have spent on those meals is donated to the poor.
That's exactly right.
Isn't that beautiful?
And I was able to attend again. The finals was 2 hours later. And I got up and bore my testimony, and I just said, I am so grateful. You guys have been so kind.
Oh.
You've welcomed me into your homes, and I'm like, this, it is just amazing that the gospel of Jesus Christ is worldwide.
Yeah.
It is everywhere. And those members loved me like they'd known me my whole life. And they'd known me for 3 days, And so I got up and I just said, thank you. I said, I've got to step out early because I'm in the finals of this tournament today. And I'm just so excited and so grateful. And so I just kind of snuck out after my testimony, and I went out there. And as I was warming up for the match, playing against another Australian in the finals, I see just cars pulling up and everybody getting out in their suits and dresses. The entire congregation came to support me in the finals of this tournament. And what was so great about it is that after I was interviewed by several different newspapers of the town, and they were like, we are just astounded. Who are all these people and how do you know them?
Yes.
And I was just like, they go to my church. They go to my church. They go to my church. And
okay, let's explain that a little bit for a second. So this is a worldwide church, and oftentimes a church will fit under the umbrella of a denomination. Like it's a Protestant church or it's an evangelical church, and then it will be centric around that particular pastor. And usually it'll follow a course of doctrine, and then it'll kind of be, if that's a really popular pastor, they'll get a bigger and bigger and bigger room, or have multiple sessions so that people can come. The LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, not like that at all. It's every clergy is what's called a lay clergy, which means people in that community are called for a time to serve in whatever capacity they are. As the head of the clergy, it would be called the bishop. The head of the women's organization would be the Relief Society president. Head of the children's would be the primary president. And all of these people that run each organization will be called to serve for a period of 3 years or 6 years or something along those lines. And they'll serve at their own time and their own expense. And there's this beautiful rotation that everybody kind of takes a turn. And so there's definitely admiration for anyone who will accept these callings and gratitude that they're willing to do it. But it's also there's an important realization that because we're not a professional clergy, we're all a level of our own hot mess, just trying our best to serve the Lord. And
Exactly.
I'm actually kind of a little salty about people who, um, in any faith, in any faith denomination that leave a church because they don't like the people. I'm like, I'm a fan that anybody that goes to church is trying to, in some way, come closer to Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's not, I don't care what denomination you're a part of, everybody is just a regular person that's trying their best. And it's a mistake. It's a mistake to put any of us on a pedestal. We got to put Jesus on the pedestal and keep all the rest of us trying to follow him, right? And so when you show up, this is a fascinating thing about our church, this church denomination, is that the buildings look very similar.
Mhm.
The art on the walls in each building, very similar. The songs, similar. And it doesn't matter where you go on the planet, you're going to hear the same lesson that day in Australia as you are in New Jersey, as you are
Yep.
in Brazil.
That's exactly right.
So you can instantly, there is this, you fit right in, and you can right away know, oh, I need to reach out for the young women's leaders because they're the ones that are going to reach for me and help me. So there's instant camaraderie, instant support, instant family and community.
Mhm.
And that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing. I mean, it was so funny. The next day, the article in the paper said Holly has fans. It wasn't Holly Hasler of the United States wins this professional tournament. It was Holly has fans, and the entire article was about how I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I attended church twice while I was there, and the whole community just kind of came to support me, and so it was just super super fun.
Literally bonded in Christ,
Yes.
bonded in your love for Christ. Okay, but your maiden name was Parkinson.
That's correct.
So if anyone's wanting to look up her fun sports history, you're going to want to look up Holly Parkinson and now Holly Hasler.
That's right.
That's
Yep.
so fun.
Yep.
Okay, so this journey continued on, and okay, wait, but so they called you Storm and Mormon, and that's hilarious. What other kind of conversations did you feel like you had to explain? Were they all like a little, I bet they had a little bit of FOMO and jealousy that you had this instant community everywhere you went.
Yeah, I mean, it was super funny. Like there was one morning we were on the practice courts, and they were making fun of the fact that I'd just run over straight from church and ran in the bathroom to change, and I just said, "Who's been in the finals the last
Uh-huh.
3 weeks of these tournaments? Clearly, I am receiving extra blessings. Maybe you should come with me next time, and you'll have a little more success."
That's right.
So it was pretty funny, and a lot of times, I just felt like it was. I just, for me, I didn't care if people, judged or made fun or thought it was weird.
Yeah.
That didn't really bother me because, again, like this was a commitment that I had made,
Mm.
and I wouldn't have been playing those tournaments had I not known that I could
Yeah.
be attending church and even just associating with other members of the same
Yeah.
faith and just having, life on the tennis tour. It's pretty lonely out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was living out of a suitcase about 35 to 40 weeks out of a year,
Wow.
out of the year for about 6 years.
Whoa.
And I tell you what, it was the just loving support
Yeah.
of the members all over the world from my congregation that really kept me going. I mean, I started staying in housing every single place I went. I stayed with members from my congregation.
Oh,
And
in those areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Every single place I went.
How
If
did
it was,
you guys organize that?
I did it all on my own. I just reached
No.
out to, if there was like the head of our church, which is we call a bishop.
Uh-huh.
I would reach out to the bishop. If it was a non-English speaking place, then I would reach out to the mission home of where
What? How would you
you
even find
know,
those numbers?
just online. Yeah, just online in the Church of Jesus Christ website. You can find the phone number and address for church buildings all over the world.
All over the world.
And some of these families were really well off and had lots of space, and others would move to their couch to allow me to sleep in
Oh my
in the
gosh.
one bed that they had in their household.
No way.
But it was just the most amazing opportunity to just connect with people all over the world of my same faith, you know?
Yes. Oh, it's so beautiful, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. And it saved me a lot of money too.
Yeah. And it saved you a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. Money for food and housing, you know, when you're a young professional athlete trying to kind of just work your way in and get your foot
Yes.
into the top of the rankings. I mean, it's extremely expensive. And in those small pro tournaments, you know, it'll be a $25,000 tournament, but if you win, the total pool for the winner, you know, the prize money for the winner is about $1,600.
Yeah.
And when you're paying for flights and your
Oh, yeah.
travel and coaching and all those things, you know,
But
it
you
adds
have
up
to
really
get
quickly.
those points.
You have to get those points. And so it was also just a way for me to save on some expenses.
Yeah.
You know, to help just the little bit that I was making go a little bit further, and then just to have company, you know. So
and isn't it this like again this instant connection? There's an instant camaraderie in your love of the Savior. So for this podcast, it's gonna bounce all over, and it's gonna bump into a lot of the people that housed you and came in and cheered you on quietly. And hey, as your sister-in-law, I mean, for me, this is an interesting thing. She married my one brother. We have a family of 3 girls, 1 boy. And honestly, how grateful I feel for these people that opened their homes and didn't even realize that they were protecting, you know, the mother of my nieces and nephews and the beautiful wife of my brother, and how grateful all of us feel for the arms that were thrown around you and helped you to sustain your faith and keep you safe in those years that could have been so isolating. Whew, so tender.
yeah, I mean, I never really thought of it that way, but it's true.
It's true. I
Yeah.
feel it's this I can't get over like how much I see as I'm getting older, God in the details.
Oh, for sure.
The retroactive like witness of the fruits that we are literally experiencing. There's this beautiful analogy in scripture that God loves to use, that he talks about these trees, and the fruit that they bear tells you whether or not it was a good tree or a bad tree. And literally this career has ended up going on to bear such righteous fruit. That's a weird phrase, I think. But as you continue on and you hear more of her story, it has continued to lead you into this very specific avenue where faith and tennis meet, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So what was your next step after that?
Um,
Well, wait, pro tour. Then my brother enters the field.
yeah. Yeah. You know, I was on the pro tour for about 6 years, and towards the end of those years, I started struggling with a few injuries that were just kind of lingering, that were a little bit frustrating. And at that time too, I was just life on tour was getting pretty lonely.
Yeah.
Just kind of feeling like, man, like I actually quit at the very peak at my highest ranking, which was
Really?
top. I was ranked 68 in the
Wow.
world.
In the world.
And just kind of feeling like, you know, I have so many other things that are really important to me. Kind of going back to that, the family unit,
Faith
and
and
feeling
family.
like this lifestyle is not ideal for meeting, you know, falling in love and meeting a husband and having a family, and two, just being able to be in the same place as my family for more
Yes.
than like a week or two at a time,
Yeah.
you know, and so I headed back to Utah, and
Was
actually
your family living in Utah?
my
by then?
family had moved to Utah.
Okay.
Yeah, they had moved to Utah while I was playing on tour. And so those were kind of, although I had played college tennis at BYU for a year prior to entering the pro tour. And so I had kind of found some roots there at
Yeah.
BYU and made some really good connections, and just loved every second of my experience playing
Oh.
college tennis. And so that my family had moved to Utah. When I came back, I jumped in actually as the volunteer assistant at BYU and just started doing some coaching in my off time while I was just kind of waiting for some injuries to pass through.
Yeah. So you were being assistant coach, and remind me, was Craig the...
I was the volunteer assistant under Craig Manning, who was the head coach. And there was another assistant at BYU at the time as well. And so I just kind of came in to just kind of help for free and just keep myself busy. And just because I could hit and get some good practice in, but also share some of the knowledge that I had and that I'd picked up while playing professionally and on tour. And so,
so cute.
it was just kind of a way to fill my time and take me back to BYU, which was a school that I loved and loved what they stood for. And absolutely.
Well, and then around this time, I had gotten married and I was having my first baby, and I lived in the same cul-de-sac as your aunt.
That's right. Yep.
And she was having her last baby. I was having my first baby, and her aunt was having her first baby. And there's a beautiful, like maybe in the Catholic Church, you would see infants being baptized. In this faith, you'll see babies getting a blessing. So babies get this cute little blessing, and that's when family all comes together, and that's when they receive their name officially and their blessing, and then on the records of the church, and it's a darling thing. And the day that my baby was blessed was also the same day that her aunt's baby was blessed. And so Holly was there in the congregation to support her aunt and her new second cousin, or whatever you call it. And my brother was there, and did he sing?
He assisted in the blessing of your baby.
And then they were eyeing each other like, hello, cuties.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And aunt and I got to be little matchmakers and set him up on a date. Train wreck of a first date.
Definite train wreck.
On your first date, you guys went to
we went to a haunted house, which they're really big and popular in Utah
for Halloween
in the fall season. And we waited in line for a couple hours to get into this haunted house, and once we got in there, we were so excited, and some, scary monsters started chasing us. And so Blair, my now husband, took off running away from a monster. So I followed him, and then he stopped to turn around to see where I was, and I sprinted straight into his shoulder and broke my nose. So it was, bloody everywhere and super painful. And for a few minutes, I think a lot of the people in the haunted house thought I was one of the monsters as I was trying to figure out what had just happened. And so, then, that just kind of led to more hangouts down the road and getting together as he took me to my surgery and those kinds of things. And then, we just ended up hitting it off. And
how God can make beauty from ashes.
Exactly.
You think, I can't believe he was like, I broke her nose. I was like, what? He's like, how do you ever come back from this? I'm like, you better take her to the hospital. Take her to her doctor's appointments. Oh, I'm so glad that it did work out. And now you guys have 4 children.
We do. We have 4 children now. Yep. And they're growing up fast. So
if you wouldn't have made that commitment of faith first, or faith and family, I mean, your career really could have become this one-dimensional life, and really, like you said, been all you were. And I don't know, you've still had an incredible success. So after that, then you came back, you guys got married, and then you did pro tour again one more summer after you guys were married. And then tell us what happened next.
Then a
few years of babies and private lessons.
So, the door opened at BYU for assistant coaching position right away. And I just was really lucky because I volunteered that year. And that really did kind of steer my decision into quitting the tour as well as getting married, and just being able to settle down and coming into a college coaching position when I was not much older than the seniors on the team, or most of the girls on the team, was a dream come true for me. And really just felt like, wow, this is the next best thing other than to competing myself. Is being able to be out here and just problem solve and coach and share some of the expertise that I have and that I've learned with, these student athletes that a lot of them wanted to go on the same path that I had just finished on.
Yeah.
And so I was really able to be, I think, a great hitting partner, but also just a great influence and example. And yeah, I mean, I loved it so much. College tennis isn't as quiet as professional tennis.
That's
It's
true.
a lot more rowdy. So we'll need to get you out to a college
Yeah.
match because
I'll fit in better.
just being able to be a coach out there on the court in the heat of the moment was something that all of a sudden I was just like, wow, I love this. This is next best thing to being a professional athlete.
Even when coaching, you'd still do like a tournament every once in a while. And it was
Yeah.
so fun.
Yeah.
Because she would just be like on this coaching all the time. And then all of a sudden she'd just like pop up and do a tournament for money and just annihilate everybody. It was always our favorite.
Yeah.
How much did you win by?
I mean, I did, back then I would jump in and play tournaments here and there when I could, just, for fun and for a little extra money because it was easy money, at the time. I don't do that anymore because my body can't handle it. It kind of goes into shock and then I'm just struggling with injuries left and right. And so, but yeah, I mean, that was something that's
hard to believe.
Really fun.
She's literally one of the most buff people on the planet. That's hard for me to even imagine. But in the midst of now this next phase of your life, you were choosing to be a mother. Whereas today it's becoming less and less popular to prioritize family, especially over such an athletic career. And so navigating that was, again, you can see that the effort that you put into like to navigating church on the tour taught you to be so multidimensional. It taught you to allow yourself to have all of this different stuff because then when you decided to have family, I mean, a lot of professional athletes become so self-centric that to be a mother would be a big departure from the training of being so, fierce.
Yeah.
How was that?
I mean, it was definitely a lifelong goal for me. And definitely a reason that I did quit as early as I did.
Yeah.
Sorry. But ultimately, for me, that was something that was really important.
Yeah. You prioritize that?
Yeah. And, being a coach at BYU is so great because, the family is such a central unit in the faith that also represents Brigham Young University.
Yeah.
And so, I was able to continue as an assistant coach with 2 kids and they just helped me to make it work, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Once
Because they're family focused as well.
Exactly. And so it was just great, and my husband Blair was just a huge support along the way and definitely had to carry a lot of the load, but it was just great to be able to have both passions.
Yeah.
And at first it was tough learning how to juggle, but you make it work. And that's kind of what I did. And after having 2 kids, I just felt like, now it's time to prioritize just on family.
Wow.
And that's when I left BYU
Yeah.
as the assistant coach. And I was gone for about 11 years, actually, quite some time, and had 2 more kids and raised them in the gospel of Jesus Christ, just as my parents raised me, and got a few of them going in tennis and some of them in other things. But then the opportunity arose. It's not something I was looking for at all.
I was with you when the call came from BYU. I was actually with you and you're like, no.
Yeah. And that was my first reaction. I was just like, I've got 4 kids now.
Yeah.
And,
Like,
my oldest at the
more.
time was really heavily involved in playing national tennis tournaments and traveling a lot. And my youngest was 4, and I was just like, there's no way.
There's no way. You kept saying it and they kept calling back.
Yeah.
And calling back. You're like, no, there's no way.
Yeah. And it just, the more that I thought about it and I pondered and I prayed and I fasted and I met with some of the leaders at BYU and some of the administration there, the more I started just realizing, I kept thinking maybe in the future, maybe in the
Yeah.
future. And then I started realizing I just kind of had this aha moment where I was like, the door may not be open in the future.
Mm.
And the student athletes need me.
There it is. Okay, but look, this is one thing that's so wonderful about you is I can always tell in an instant when you feel the spirit because immediately you are so tender and I've always loved that about you.
Yes.
But it's not just that they were going to need you. God put that on your heart that they needed you. And it was a calling. I mean, that's a moment where you were called to do something that was going to be too tiring, too hard, too complicated. And when the spirit put it on your heart, you answered the call.
Exactly.
And same for, like, I know as a family, you guys were discussing it and you were trying to figure out how to do it because you were like, everyone's going to have to be all hands on deck. And your husband was going to have to interact more than, even more than he was right then. And it was a family decision. And I know that you guys worked together as a family to come to that. I watched you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know that you guys had a family council because that's not really the way you work. Holly's never still. She's always going. So probably while you were like sorting laundry and making dinner and making phone calls and texting, you guys were having a family conversation while doing all of those things. But that also works for your family.
Yeah.
You still were having those family correlations or councils or whatever you want to call it, family meetings, but it wasn't, and I think this is important. It wasn't sitting down at a perfectly clean kitchen table, holding hands, having this beautiful conversation. You're like, we're talking, we're communicating, we're in the process figuring this out. But everyone was being, I was literally there that week. We were in your home visiting because we live in Texas. And so we were there visiting and in the home the week that this was all happening. And I kept watching as you guys were kind of talking through. We're making dinner. You're tossing that Caesar salad that's part of every single meal that you ever make. She's making that Caesar salad and they're talking it through. There's no way it could work. How could it possibly work? And then she's crying. And then she's testifying. And then she's tossing the salad and setting the table. And it was beautiful to watch. And again, like, look at how the priority of putting faith, your whole life follows that. Putting family first, choosing to have those children, and choosing to not. Again, I'm going to bring it up because right now is a time when a lot of women feel like they have to choose career or family. And I think what you did that was so wise is that you allowed yourself to not be a one hit wonder. You decided to have fullness in all of these categories. And I don't know, do you feel like it would have been a richer, fuller life if you would have just gone? You you got 68 in the world. Maybe you could have gotten 50. Maybe you could have gotten 40. Do you think it would have been, do you regret that?
I mean, there were definitely times where, some of my peers and closest friends on the tour played for an additional 10 years.
Whoa.
After
FOMO.
I quit playing on the tour. And there were definitely times where one time a girl that I beat first round at the Australian Open was in the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam.
And you're like,
8 years later. And I'm like,
been me.
I beat her.
Yeah.
And so that, and like I had a win against Maria Sharapova in one of her very first pro tournaments ever. And here she is, top player in the entire world, winning Grand Slams. And I'm like, wait a minute here, but at the end of the day, I really never regretted my decision just because I felt like I really got to live like the best of both worlds. I got to get my foot in the door. I pushed into the top 70 in the world. I was competing in all those Grand Slams. And, I got to kind of live in that limelight for a good amount of time, but it was enough for me.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, what's next that's even more important for me?
Wow.
And so, I don't really, I didn't really ever regret. I have often wondered, well, what if?
Yeah.
Or could I have?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, but wow, look at what I have that they don't have.
And
And a lot of those girls a lot of those ladies are still not even married to this day, and kind of missed that window.
Yeah.
And so I actually feel pretty fortunate and grateful just for the tiny miracles along the way,
that you kept choosing to listen to the Spirit, listen to Holy Spirit and follow those promptings because those were hard decisions. You know, I was talking to a fella the other day who trains CEOs. That's what he does. Like large Fortune 500 companies hire him to come in and train their new CEOs and help them to receive even greater success. And he flippantly like doesn't know my history and that I know you so well. He mentioned Craig Manning and how much. So Craig Manning is now the head of sports psychology at BYU,
That's
correct?
right. Correct.
And he is just proficient in his career. He is really such a leader.
Yeah.
And this guy who trains CEOs was talking about how he listens to a lot of his sports psychology training and then uses it in training these CEOs. And I said, what a weird job. Like, why would you use sports psychology in that? He goes, well, what you find in these CEOs is they're on wife number 3. They have burned every relationship in their life because they are so centric focused that they become so driven and so selfish and so focused that they cannot succeed. They hit a ceiling that because they can't see the workers, they can't see the environment, they can't see the consumer, that they actually self what is it called? They implode their own
Yeah.
careers.
Yeah.
And so here's this interesting concept, like literally that circles back to the coach that you assisted under. And one more evidence of God being in the details of your life, of you went in and worked with somebody that was so validating of the course that you had taken. And I'm sure whether he realizes it or not, that you were a little bit of a test tube baby for him, that he was watching such a proficient athlete choose this balanced effort of life to be able to. I mean, Craig, you might need to give a little shout out to cute little Miss Holly Hasler over here who may have influenced some of your thought process because sincerely.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy about that is Craig Manning, I actually was extremely fortunate. Prior to that, he was my coach at BYU.
Really?
So when I played at BYU, he was my assistant coach. And then when I came back and got into the coaching, he was now the head coach at
Okay.
BYU. And now that I have come back to BYU as the head coach, he is now our
Head.
our AD over sports psychology.
Wow.
And it's been incredible to have the opportunity to just have
Have your
him be a
careers,
mentor
yeah.
and still be connected. And I mean, I've learned so much from him just
Wow.
throughout my years of just learning and trying to do better and to be better at what I'm doing.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
What a
been
legacy. Well, now here you are working as the assistant coach and as
the
your
head coach.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
as the head coach at BYU. Losing my mind. And as the head coach at BYU, I've watched you do all these recruiting trips. So you're back traveling somewhat, where you have to travel all over the world to meet with these different athletes. And something that I think is so interesting that I've heard you talk about is how often people from other countries are intimidated to send their children to the US, but why there has been a draw to BYU. You know, in case you don't know, Notre Dame is the big university that's owned by the Catholic Church. BYU is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So you see a lot of faith connection in the courses, in the philosophy of the honor code. And so what's that been like for you in that process?
Yeah. You know, it's great because BYU is not just a regular university.
Mm-mm.
You know, it's a very unique university in the fact that so much of BYU is about prioritizing values and building character.
Mm,
And, you know, it's not just about wins and losses on the
no.
tennis court for me as a coach. And I love that. I think when you're just thinking at the end of the day, you know, a lot of coaches, it's just like, we have to win. And if we don't win, you're off my lineup or off my team
Wow.
or, you know, and for me, just knowing that there's a bigger picture out there based on the just kind of the faith center of BYU and the, you know, enter to learn, go forth to serve, and
Oh,
just
that's the school motto,
the
right?
the spiritual aspect of just helping everyone to become true disciples of Jesus Christ
Yeah.
every single day is one of the reasons that I love being at BYU.
Wow.
And the thing that attracts a lot of these international student athletes is, we meet with the athlete, but we also meet with the parents.
Mhm.
And it's so scary for them to think, I've got to send my child thousands of miles away.
Oh,
They've
wow.
never been to the United States. They've never lived away from home, but yet I know that college tennis in the United States is the best next opportunity for them based at where they're at.
Yeah.
And I think that they really love that concept of, like, this is not just about making your child a better tennis player. We
Mm-mm.
will do that. But this is about helping your child to become a better person
Wow.
and to be ready to enter the world. And whether they're of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints faith or
Yeah.
not, it's not about that.
No, you have a
But it's
religiously
about,
diverse team, don't
we
you?
have a very religiously diverse team, and it's more about like let's look for the good every single day, and let's try to be, how can we be better,
Yeah.
right? How can we be better? And yes, like, winning tennis matches is amazing, but I don't ever feel that pressure
Yeah.
from BYU athletics ever.
Interesting.
I just feel loved and supportive. And the most important thing for me and my student athletes is for them to feel accepted, and for them to feel loved, and for them to feel like they are in a safe place where they can just thrive successfully as a student athlete, as a person, and just to every day try to help them to be better. And sometimes those lessons I'm teaching off the court.
Yeah.
It's honestly more so off the court
I
than
would
when I'm on the
say,
court.
because I mean, these are women on your team, but they're still young adults. And they're
Yes.
on the other side of the planet sometimes from their parents. And so you're a coach, but in some ways you're a mom to them, or
It's true.
a big sister.
We really focus a lot on culture, and we really are a second family away from our
And I
initial
know that's true
families.
because whenever I come to town, there's always somebody from another country that's a cute girl from the team, that's a cute woman from the team that is there and just feeling like she's part of the family.
That's exactly right.
What is the name of that famous rugby movie with Coach Gelwick?
Rugby movie.
Oh, what is that called? I can't think of it.
It's not Remember the Titans, right?
No,
Because
that's
that's
the football one,
football.
but it's a
I don't
Utah
know the
rugby
rugby
team.
one.
Oh, I can't think of it. I'm sure many of you viewers are watching this, and this all feels very reminiscent of he was such a famous winning coach, and he's also from Highland, Utah, and the reason why I'm pointing it out is because there's a commonality here. I know he was of the same faith as you as well, and that you can see a lot of this God and family and community and becoming a better person. You see that thread in his coaching as well, and it's world renowned to see this kind of leadership. It's another thing that I think is interesting in your faith journey, that there's been a lot of leadership development as you've gone through. There's just so much more in Christianity than just a prayer. You know what I mean? It becomes really in the lifestyle. Okay, so now you've got all these girls of all of these beautiful women from all over the country, and they're in all these different religious faiths, and they come to BYU, and that is a very um, the vast majority of students there belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the honor code that is kept, it is a strict honor code at BYU. It's not like other schools where it's like, we prefer you didn't drink. No, no, you don't drink at BYU. And if you do and you get caught, there's academic probation, or you're even kicked out of the school. So how has that culture been for these students coming in?
I'm really clear with the student athletes that I'm recruiting, so that they are fully aware of what the lifestyle is like at BYU,
It's a dry county,
and
right?
what the commitment is like. And there is a high level of expectation at BYU, as there is academically, as there is
Yes.
athletically, and as there is a commitment to just living those values that are important to the community. And so I am very clear. However, most of the student athletes that come to BYU, I feel like they're professional.
Yeah.
And they have a high level of expectation of performance for themselves. And so to be in an environment where the opportunity to succeed is just literally just laid into place for you
Wow.
without all those distractions that you might
Yeah.
have at other universities and schools. For most of the student athletes that I've had, it's just, they love it.
They love it.
They love it. They come and they're just like, wow, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Really?
And, I mean, obviously they are religiously diverse.
Yeah.
And so they just always feel loved and accepted and invited.
Oh, that's
but it's
huge.
never a pressure
Mm,
of, well, you have to do this, or you have to come to this activity, or to this,
sure.
to this message. Right. And so, it's crazy because when we do travel and we do attend church, when we are on the road, it's always optional for the girls on my team if they'd
what's
like
that
to
been
attend
like?
or not.
Do they come? Do they
And
think it's fun?
They do. They always come. Very,
Oh, really?
very rarely do I ever have one that chooses to stay in the hotel. They
like,
want
"I
to
wanna
come
come."
and keep an open mind, and they want to be with their teammates,
I love
and
that. And can I just say, I think that this is one of the most beautiful things. My in-laws are of a different. They're wonderful, active, enthusiastic Catholics, and every time we go and visit, we go to church with them because I want my children to recognize that the winning team is loving Jesus Christ. That's the winning team. I don't want us to be diverse, like where we're pulled apart by, oh, their doctrine is this, or oh, their doctrine is that. I think one of the biggest mistakes I'll see in Christianity today is where they try to play winning team, losing team of their faith is better. Now, there's a great quote by a man named Gordon B. Hinckley who says, "Bring everything that you have and let us add to it," because the beauty of gathering of the minds of Christianity all throughout, man, we grow so much more working with each other. And look at this diversity in your team. It hasn't made you guys a weaker team. It's made you stronger.
no, I mean, it really has made us stronger. And it's actually just been, honestly, like, it's been really cool to see the way that my team has just kind of come together. Like this year, we have so many different faiths on our team, and
Yeah,
it's
what
been
are some
really
of them?
fun. So we actually have a Jewish member of our team.
Fabulous.
We have a Muslim member of our team.
Right on. This
We
is so
have
crazy.
a couple members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Uh-huh.
We have some that are just Christian,
Oh, wonderful.
and it's been really fun. This year I got to attend the baptism of one of my Christian athletes.
Oh, really?
And she was baptized in the Provo River.
oh, cute.
And it
This
was
is
just
special.
amazing to be able to be there for her and support her. And we've had girls on my team send photos to our group chat where they've attended the Muslim
I love it.
message.
Yeah.
And they're dressed with headpieces,
Oh,
and they've
to
gone and
support and
supported
love.
her, who's thousands of miles from her home in Tunisia. And
Oh, wow.
and so actually it's just been a really fun way to, I think, add to our culture, to be honest, and to just be really open and upfront about, like, this is what I believe and this is the faith that I have, and everyone supports. And for me as a coach, at the end of the day, my job, I feel like, is, I mean, our team motto this year was build belief and give gratitude.
Build belief,
And
give gratitude.
I just decided at the beginning of the season, I'm like, this year I really want to focus on gratitude, because at BYU we are given so much, and we are so blessed. And those student athletes, I mean, compared to even when I was a student athlete, it's incredible the support system that they have and the resources that they are given, with a strength and conditioning coach and a physio and a sports psychologist and an academic advisor
Wow.
and tutors and nutritionists. And I mean, there's just so much. The support system is just incredible. And I just in pondering, like, what should our motto be this year, and so I did gratitude journals for all of the girls, and it was one of the best things that we've ever done since I've been a
Really?
coach, because we just every day or every week, we did these gratitude journals where we just tried to really focus on just tiny miracles happening in our lives every day, and looking for the good.
Oh, wow.
And because, in tennis, as in life, a lot of times you're problem solving. And it's so easy for me as a coach. I go out on the court and my player's just like, I can't do this and I can't do this. And I go, whoa, 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 wait. Let's talk about what you can do.
Wow. Yeah.
What can you do? What are some of the good things? Because there are so many.
Wow.
Right? But in that blurry, hard moment of frustration out on the
Yeah.
court, a lot of times they don't see it and they don't recognize it, and so, and it's been really fun for the girls to dig really deep, because some of the questions in the gratitude journal they're just deeper. It's not just surface level, like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I, get to go to the nutrition center every day and get free food,
Yeah.
and so we had a lot of opportunities where we shared the things and so we got to build culture
Yeah.
and get to know one another better. But it was just amazing to see the hand of Jesus Christ and Heavenly Father and the Spirit in their lives regularly, and from many different aspects.
Yes.
It wasn't just from their different faiths and how they saw
Beautiful.
things were just so different.
A phrase I heard years ago that I thought was so powerful was, we know that God lives. And when there's different faiths, especially ones that are not Christian faiths, I heard this one phrase that we may call him by different names, but we are all reaching for that higher power, that creator. And though we may call him by different names, we know that God lives, and we know that he is real and that he knows us. And so I love that you're finding much more commonality even in your differences than division. Again, I just feel like what a powerful influence for good we can be in each other's lives when we converse, when we connect, when we communicate, and cross some lines that are a little bit different or could have been uncomfortable. Instead, you found more richness and more blessing.
Yeah.
Especially like with your traveling all over the world and all these different cultures and all these different people. It makes it's amazing how much it makes us see God more in the details rather than get lost in the expanse of the big world.
So true.
Man, your story is so powerful, and watching how each one of us, no matter what our journey is and what we're navigating, that centering focus of gospel and family and development, right? Really developing your talents has become so powerful. You've raised some incredible athletes. Your son, Caden, he's 20, about to come home from his 2-year Christian mission, and he's playing tennis at BYU.
Yep.
And he's on full scholarship, and that he earned on his own accord. I might point out that boy traveled all over building his points and becoming a great national winning athlete, right?
Yep, he did. Yes.
He won doubles champion nationally, right?
He won a couple different doubles championships. He ended up finishing in the 18 and unders, number 1 ranked junior player in the country in the 18 and unders in doubles, and top 20 in singles. And so he's worked really hard, and
He's fierce.
And I'm excited to get to have him at BYU every day, with me, which will be super fun.
And then your second oldest, Cambria, she's a senior, and
she just recently committed to run track at BYU. So to have 2 of my kids as freshman athletes just is going to make it really fun to go to work every day.
Can you even believe this?
Just getting to be there to support them. And
she just won. What were some of her winnings this year?
Her high school's team just won the state championship on the girls' side for the second year in a row. And she broke some school records and some state records. And she's just had a phenomenal season, but mostly the leadership has been incredible from her.
What do you mean?
So she has been her team captain at her high school since her sophomore year.
American Fork High School.
And I had just, especially the last week and last night, just
so proud, not of her running accomplishments, but of who she has become
Yeah.
as a person. She has been the glue of her track team.
Yeah.
And just seeing the way that the other athletes at her school just love her and respect her and look up to her is any mom's dream,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And they got to write little notes on the back of her poster, and I was reading them last night, and I'm just astounded
Yeah.
at just
The
the
growth.
influence that she
Yeah.
has been for good. I mean, so many of those things are like, at first I thought you just wanted to be popular. And then I learned why everybody loves you so much,
Yeah.
you know, and just note after note after note like that, where, you know, I was so scared to be on the track team as a freshman, and you made me feel so special and so wanted. And I'm just like, wow, this is my Cambria. She's done so much good, you know, through sport.
Again, watch that. Look at how in every little corner of the world, in every strength and every talent, we have an ability to be an influence for good. And it could have just been all about her. It could have just been all about you. And the choice to look beyond ourselves and find ways to be an influence for good is incredible. And then your two little kids are going to continue to have lots more good to grow, and we'll hear more about them in future episodes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And Bryson and Brinley are adorable, and again, so much good. Watching how you have navigated your family and not compromised on your faith journey has been really beautiful. And I'm just so grateful for the continued effort that you've made throughout your career, throughout your life, to be an influence for good. Any last thoughts?
Not really. This has been just super amazing and super fun to have this opportunity to be on here with you. And I just think one thing that I've learned through my student athletes is they're all on their own journey,
Yeah.
and every journey looks so different.
Yeah.
And they've all been through really hard things. But one thing that I've noticed that has really made a difference in the lives of my student athletes, and especially for those that are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is helping them to recognize the Spirit, helping them to recognize miracles that come from our Savior Jesus Christ.
Yes.
I've had just 3, even on my team this year, that have just truly found home at
wow.
BYU.
Really?
You know, and one of them, after her first year at BYU, and this is prior to coming from a really hard situation at her previous school, to where I think she kind of felt like life was ending, should be over, you know, not wanting to continue in tennis. And this was her Instagram post. It was, "Dear BYU women's tennis, thank you for the best year of my life. Thank you for changing my life and giving me my joy back. Thank you for giving me the greatest friends I've ever had. Thank you for allowing me to come and join this amazing university and athletic department. Thank you for my happiness. Thank you for my new family."
Oh my goodness.
And this is the reason that this is my why for being at BYU. And I am competitive beyond
you are.
belief, and I love winning. And I have this strong passion for tennis, but I have more of a passion for changing lives.
Yeah.
And the young women on my team are at a crucial time when they come in as athletes.
Yeah.
And some of their hard is different than others. But at the end of the day, I just think the young people, they need to feel valued, they need to feel loved and wanted. And when they come to BYU, they get that, and they start to realize all the blessings and you can be of any faith to just
To have that.
find and those blessings and to have that. And
I know, but
so
I think if we cut your bone, if we cut your arm off, we'd probably find BYU in your DNA. I think it's in
maybe
there, girl.
it probably is now. That's true. And now with my kids coming, I was already bleeding blue, but now it's going to be even more diehard.
Even more.
So it'll be great, and I'm super excited and just love learning and growing alongside of just my peers at BYU. It's amazing.
And your family is amazing. I just, in conclusion, like, I just feel so grateful for your lifelong example of continuing to strive and choose to be an example, to be an influence for good, to look for ways to put Christ in your life personally and also to exemplify that for others. And I can tell from all of the testimonies that you've borne today that by choosing that in your life, it's created the fullness that has provided you with so much of the joy you have today. I hope that as you've watched this and gone through this with us today, that you'll take this away, that whatever corner of the world that you're working in, whatever talents you're working to develop, that there are ways in your own personal life, whether on a worldwide stage or just in the corner of your own neighborhood, to open up your mind, open up your heart, and look for opportunities to be an influence for good. Hey, thanks for listening to Influence for Good podcast. Would you please take a second before you move on with your day and just think about the things that we talked about? Is there anyone in your life, your friends, your family members, your coworkers, that might need to hear this message? Sometimes a lesson that a parent or a boss or a coworker has said 1,000,000 times can't be heard and can't be received except through a third-person party. If there was something in today's message that you feel like could help a friend, will you please take a minute to just share it with them so that together we can be an influence for good?